Don't embarrass your brother today, just sit in the back, and don't talk about your rank. That was my father's voice, clear, clipped, cold. He didn't say hello, didn't ask how my flight was, didn't even pretend to care that I was coming home for the first time in 14 years. Just that line, like he was managing a risk. I stood alone in the terminal at Bluegrass Regional Airport, phone to my ear, duffel bag at my feet. The air smelled like gasoline and fried chicken, exactly like it did the day I left Kentucky. I didn't come to talk, Dad, I said. I came because it's a tribute to Mom's side of the family, too, and Diane invited me. A sharp exhale. Well, your aunt shouldn't have, but what's done is done. Just remember it's a military tribute, not a place for tech people to play dress up. He hung up. I stayed still. Then I walked out. Outside, the cold hit like memory. Sharp, familiar, unwelcome. I crossed the parking lot in silence, each step heavier than the last. 14 years away and the place still smelled like loss. The car rental desk sat quiet under flickering lights. The agent looked up, bored but friendly. Back for the holiday tribute, he asked. Big Beck family thing? I gave a small nod. 3 generations of service, he said. That's something. Your daddy served in Nam, right? Yes, I answered. He smiled. Bet he's proud. I didn't correct him. Didn't explain the silence, the distance, the invisible war between us. I just took the keys and left. No radio on, no words, only the quiet ache of returning to a town that never made room for me, and never really noticed I'd left. The same flags, same porches, same tight-lipped history, and now I was walking back into it, by choice. The Beck house came into view. White siding, blue shutters, flagpole out front like always. I slowed the car, but didn't stop. The porch light was on, so was the porch silence. That house had never been mine. Not really. I had a motel booked 2 miles out, clean, quiet, detached. At check-in, I caught my reflection in the lobby mirror, eyes sharp, composed, but behind them, something older than tired. I dropped my bag on the bed and sat down. The room smelled like fabric softener and dust. Out the window, I saw the tops of the oak trees lining the old base road. Somewhere past them in a warehouse no one thought twice about were servers I helped design. Defense grade, layered, invisible. I wasn't just a tech. I was Commander Lauren Beck, Director of Strategic Systems, Joint Cyber Command. But none of that would matter tomorrow. Not in that room. I knew how tomorrow would go. Uniforms, medals, framed photos, a room full of salutes and small talk. And my father, if he introduced me at all, would say, "This is my daughter Lauren. She works in DC now. That's it. Not commander, not strategic systems, just D." Because to him it didn't count. Not like Aaron did. My brother, infantry officer, combat deployments, Purple Heart, the real soldier. That's what Dad used to say. To my face. I was the one in air conditioning playing with screens. He laughed when he said it like it was harmless, like it wasn't a cut. I pulled the curtains closed, muffled the world. No need to fight tomorrow. I wasn't here for a fight. I came to finish something that started a long time ago, on a wall that never had space for me. When I was a kid, we called it the honor wall. It took up the whole living room. Photos, medals, plaques, grandpa in navy dress, dad in fatigues crouched by a chopper in Vietnam, and Aaron, every milestone framed like scripture. Army Navy ROTC, distinguished honor graduate, officer candidate school, then the Purple Heart. Mom framed that one herself, hung it dead center. Mine. A single photo from basic, no frame, thumbtacked behind the door like a permission slip that didn't belong. I hadn't thought about that wall in years, but tonight in this room it came back like a weight in the chest, because tomorrow I'd stand in front of that same kind of wall, only bigger, louder, public. And again, I'd be in the room, but not in the story, unless I wrote myself in. The community center looked exactly how I expected. Folding chairs, plastic tablecloths, flags taped to every wall. It smelled like coffee, old carpet, and nostalgia. Inside, someone played patriotic music over tinny speakers. Kids ran between legs. Veterans adjusted their caps and swapped stories. I walked in with steady steps. No uniform, just presence. A banner stretched across the main wall. 3 generations of Beckmen serving with honor. No mention of me, not even in fine print. I scanned the room. Diane waved from across the buffet table, nervous and quick, like someone who'd done something kind by mistake. Her husband nodded politely. But it was my father I saw first, laughing with a retired colonel, hand on his hip. When he noticed me, he didn't smile, didn't wave, just gave a tight nod, then turned away. Aaron was already working the room. Polished shoes, bronze star, smile turned on, eyes turned off. He always fit here, made people feel safe, especially the kind who liked their heroes simple. When he saw me, his grin held, but it didn't soften. Well, well, he said. You showed up after all. I kept my tone even. It's a family tribute. I'm family. He smirked. Sure. Just don't be weird about it. Okay, don't talk shop. These folks don't care about cyber stuff. I blinked. That what you think I do? He shrugged. You work with computers, defense analysis or whatever. Dad says it's more support than field. I didn't respond. No point. To them what counted was boots on sand and scars you could point to. I had neither. Just a record they never read and a war they didn't understand. I walked toward the photo display, a collage of Beckmen through the years. Dad, age 24, jungle gear rifle slung. Grandpa Navy white smiling on a ship. Aaron front and center. Multiple frames, multiple honors. Then in the corner I saw it. Cropped tight, poor lighting. Me standing outside a command tent, holding a tablet. 2 lieutenants flanked me. The caption read, L. Beck. Communications support? Support, not command. Not strategic ops, not the mission I led. That day we intercepted a breach and stopped a drone attack in time. My name was on the directive. My team held the line. But here I was, background. I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I just felt something shift. Not for them, for me. There's a quiet kind of power when you've earned it in silence. The first time I stepped into a classified ops center, I was 26. My badge didn't open all the doors. But I listened. I learned. I knew which cables failed under pressure, how to reroute firewalls in under 7 seconds. That earned me my first command unit, not because I demanded it, because I didn't flinch. I never wanted the spotlight. I wanted the work. But in this room filled with frame medals and proud handshakes, that kind of power meant nothing. They didn't see systems. They saw uniforms, not control rooms, only combat zones. I stood near the refreshments table watching people smile past me like I was just someone's quiet daughter home for the weekend. I wasn't angry. I was calculating. Part 10. The quiet one. A woman approached me near the coffee urn. Cynthia, I think. Church lady. Used to bring brownies to Sunday potlucks. Oh, Lauren, she said, adjusting her scarf. Look at you. You've always been the quiet one. She smiled like it was a compliment. Still working? Computer things? I gave a thin nod. Still in the service. She tilted her head. But not real deployments, right? More admin. Before I could answer, my father's voice cut in behind me. She does support ops, mostly tech side. Strategic alignment, right? I turned slowly. He sipped from a plastic cup like we were discussing the weather. I met his eyes. I run integrated cyber response for defense critical infrastructure. He shrugged. All above my pay grade. He didn't mean it as praise. He meant it as distance. A polite dismissal. Just enough to remind everyone I didn't really belong. Part 11, the wall again. He'd been building that wall since the day I joined the military. Not through ROTC like Aaron, through direct commission after earning my master's in systems engineering. You're wasting potential, he told me. That's not real command. That's hiding behind machines. I was 23. I didn't argue. I just signed the papers. Years later, Aaron's unit faced a coordinated drone swarm. It wasn't his training that saved them. It was our signal intercepts processed in Frankfurt under my supervision. But no one here knew that. Not even Aaron. Classified. Buried under clearance levels and layers of silence. And honestly, I never wanted a medal. I just wanted to do the work. But when your name's not even on the wall when your father won't speak it out loud, you start to wonder what else they chose not to remember. I moved across the room, found an empty folding chair by the far wall. A few cousins argued over football. Someone's toddler knocked over a tray of lemonade. No one noticed me. I sat alone letting the noise blur, not angry, just outside of it all. There was a time I would have cared, would have tried harder to belong in a space that never made space for me. But now I was watching, not the slideshow, not the speeches. I was watching how people made room for certain stories and quietly pushed others to the edge, and how easy it was for a woman in uniform to disappear in a room full of flags. I leaned back in the chair, feeling the metal cold through my blouse. The tribute hadn't even started yet, and I was already erased. The tribute started after lunch. Folding chairs filled quickly. I ended up near the back next to a dusty ficus and a flickering exit sign. The kind of seating you give to guests, not family. Fitting. Aaron spoke first, of course. Opened with a boot camp joke. It landed. People laughed. Then he shifted smooth, as always, into words like duty, sacrifice, legacy. Photos lit up the projector screen behind him, Grandpa on a Navy ship. Dad in a foxhole, Aaron beside a helicopter saluting. I wasn't in any of them, not even the one from Mom's backyard the first time I wore a uniform. She had framed it once, tucked a note inside to our daughter with pride. Apparently pride had a shelf life. Aaron finished. People clapped. Dad stood to shake his hand like passing down a kingdom, and I stayed in the shadows. Then came the recognitions. A local veterans group handed Aaron a framed certificate. Someone from the mayor's office gave Dad a plaque. The MC stepped up. And now, a short presentation honoring the Beck family's military tradition. Lights dimmed, the screen rolled footage black and white turning to color. Decades of uniforms. Salutes, headlines, the men of the family. That was the thread. My cousin leaned toward me, whispering, "Didn't you serve too?" I nodded once. She frowned. "Weird they didn't include you." It wasn't weird. It was deliberate. The photo wasn't missing. It was erased. I didn't flinch, didn't move. I'd learned a long time ago that standing too soon only made people watch how you walked. So I sat still while the applause faded and the cake was cut, because sometimes silence says more than shouting ever could. People drifted toward the dessert table. Conversations returned to normal whether grandkids' football scores. I stayed near the edge of the room beside an exhibit table filled with memorabilia. Old helmets, folded flags, unit patches behind glass. That's where I saw it. A framed display labeled Operation Resolute Shield Regional Response Units. I leaned closer. Bottom left corner, tiny nameplate, Tech Support L. Beck. The words hit harder than I expected. That operation had been mine. Not in theory, in reality. I built the mission map, led 6 allied teams across 3 continents, coordinated a defense in under 48 hours. We prevented a second strike by 18 minutes. 18. And here I was, tech support. No outrage, no tears, just something heavy settling in my chest, like a wire being quietly cut. That's when Diane appeared beside me. Voice low, tight. "I'm sorry, Lauren. I didn't know they'd leave you out like this." I didn't look at her, just stared at the nameplate. "Didn't you?" I asked. She flinched, not dramatically, just enough. Then she said, "Your mom kept everything, articles, photos, even that one from Germany?" "In a box," I said. "In her sewing room?" She nodded. "Your father didn't want them on display?" A pause, because it didn't fit the story. I swallowed hard. "That's okay," I said quietly. Diane looked confused, but I wasn't finished. I turned toward the case eyes on that thin false label. "I'm not here to be included," I said. She blinked. Then why I met her gaze. "I'm here to remind them what happens when you underestimate the wrong person." I didn't see him walk in, but I felt the room shift, like air being pulled tight. The double doors opened slowly, not loud, just intentional. General Marcus Halverson, 4 stars, Supreme Allied Cyber Defense, direct oversight of multi-theater threat coordination. The last time I saw him was in a bunker in Belgium. 60-hour operation. No room for error. When it ended, he shook my hand and said, "You were 3 moves ahead of Moscow." That saved lives. And now he stood under red, white, and blue streamers next to a table of grocery store cupcakes. No one noticed yet. Too busy chatting, laughing, remembering. But I saw him, and he saw me. He didn't pause, didn't scan the room. He walked straight toward me, no detours, no hesitation. He stopped in front of me, extended his hand, Commander Beck, he said, clearly good to see you again. Silence, not awkward. Stunned. I stood and shook his hand. General, I said. Didn't expect to find you tucked in the back. He smiled just faintly. Old habits. Then he turned to address the room without raising his voice. For those who may not know, Commander Beck led the Cyber-Integrated Joint Response Team during Operation Resolute Shield. Murmurs, heads turning, a fork clattered to the floor. When I heard there was a tribute to the Beck family, I asked to attend personally, because when history is written about 21st century warfare, her name will be in the footnotes of every successful defense protocol we have. A pause. No one spoke. He wasn't finished. General Halverson's tone sharpened. Measured. Final. You don't salute support staff, he said. You salute leaders. He turned toward me. And Commander Beck, she's one of the best we've got. The room held still. Even the air felt different. Then he looked at me again. If I may, ma'am. He saluted. Without hesitation, I returned it. When he left, he paused just once to shake my father's hand. Dad said something I couldn't hear. The general only nodded, polite but brief. Then he walked out the way he came. Quiet, no music, no spotlight. But now the silence in the room wasn't about absence, it was weight. Recognition, something real, something earned. I stood there for a moment. No one moved. No one looked away. For once, I was seen. The noise returned slowly. Soft chatter, chairs scraping. Someone whispered, "That was her. I didn't stay for questions. Didn't explain." I walked past the display table, past the tiny nameplate tech support, L. Beck. I reached into my bag, pulled out a folded document, taped it to the glass. Commanding Officer, Joint Cyber Response Operation Resolute Shield. No speech, no announcement, just truth placed where it belonged. On my way out, I passed Aaron. He didn't speak, didn't need to. His face said, enough. A mix of disbelief and something else, not shame, not pride. Maybe the beginning of understanding. I didn't go back into the hall, not yet. I stepped out the side exit into the cold. Past the chain link fence toward the field where we used to run as kids. The grass was taller now, untended, a little wild. But I remembered the sound our cleats made on that turf when we raced as kids. Me always trying to keep up. Aaron never looking back. It felt like the perfect metaphor. Then and now. I stood at the edge of the field, hands in my coat pockets, wind pressing against my collar. But my heart wasn't pounding. It was steady. Because for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. Behind me, the door creaked open. Footsteps on gravel. A pause. I didn't have to turn. I knew who it was. Aaron stopped a few feet away. Neither of us spoke. Then quietly he said, "That was unexpected." I didn't answer. Just let the wind fill the space between us. Aaron shifted his weight. "You could have told me about the operation, about the general." I turned to face him. "You could have asked." He looked down, kicked at a patch of dead grass. Dad didn't know. "Either," he said, almost defensive. He was just as blindsided. "Good," I replied. He blinked. "You wanted to humiliate him?" "No," I said, voice even. I wanted to stop pretending he didn't humiliate me first. Aaron's face tensed. "You think I didn't notice?" I stepped closer, words quiet but sharp. The photo wall, the captions, calling me support staff in a room full of people who think wars are only won with boots and blood. He said nothing. I had more. He called what I do technical. I said like it was less. Every time. Every time he praised you in front of me like I wasn't wearing the same uniform. Aaron rubbed his face. "I don't know." He's old school. He didn't mean it. He meant every word I cut in. And so did I. I took a slow breath. I don't care about credit. Never did. But I won't shrink myself to protect someone else's comfort. Aaron looked at me, really looked, but didn't speak. I gave a faint, humorless smile. "You get it now," he hesitated. More than I did. I nodded. "Not enough," I said. "But it's a start." I turned to walk back. Then paused. "You know what I realized in there?" He didn't answer. They didn't forget me. They chose not to see me, and I wasn't letting them look away again. I didn't go back to the hall. Not yet. I drove through town, past the oak trees, past the old church where Mom used to volunteer. I wasn't sure where I was going until I realized my hands had already made the turn. The Beck house sat exactly where I left it. White siding, blue shutters, flagpole still there, though the rope was frayed. No one was home. Dad was still at the tribute, Aaron too. I parked a block away, walked the rest. The key hadn't changed. The lock still stuck a little before it gave way. Inside, the smell hit first old wood polish coffee baked into the walls. Nothing had changed, and everything had. I moved through the hallway slowly past the honor wall, past the spot where my frame never hung. I wasn't here for photos. I headed straight to the back room, Mom's sewing room. She used to spend hours here cutting fabric, never quite finishing the quilts. I'd sit on the floor sorting buttons into jars while she told stories from her nursing shifts during the war. I opened the closet, moved aside the plastic bins, and there it was. A cardboard box labeled in her handwriting, Lauren. I sat cross-legged on the floor and lifted the lid. Inside, every letter I'd ever sent home. Deployment rosters, printed articles from defense bulletins, photos, me with my first unit grinning through exhaustion. And near the bottom, an envelope marked confidential. I opened it expecting more reports, but it was a printed email. From Pentagon Liaison Office, subject Medal of Commendation, Commander Beck. My breath caught, and beneath it a note in Mom's shaky script. She'd tried to fight for me. The email was short, cold. As discussed, we have removed Commander Beck's name from the public nomination list at the request of her family liaison. Official justification to avoid internal reputational conflict within the chain of command. I froze. Beneath it, Mom's handwriting, uneven but clear. Lauren, I fought him on this. He said it would embarrass your brother to have you named after what happened in Qatar. I'm so sorry. I didn't stop him. Please forgive me. Love, Mom. My eyes stayed on the page, not crying, just still. Qatar. I knew the operation. Classified. Aaron had been nearby. There'd been whispers, a delayed response, a compromised convoy. I hadn't connected it before. But now I could see it. He made a mistake. I cleaned it up, and Dad, he buried the truth, not to protect me, to protect a version of us that never included me. I folded the letter carefully, not like something precious, like evidence. He hadn't just left me off a wall. He'd made sure the world wouldn't see me at all, but now they had. I stood up slowly, box still open, room still filled with memories that never really belonged to me. No rage, just clarity. I placed the letter, back closed the lid, took the envelope with me. By the time I returned to the hall, most of the crowd had thinned. Uncles talking near the coffee table, old neighbors trading back pain stories like war wounds. Dad stood at the head table laughing lightly with someone from city council. Calm, controlled, he saw me. Smile tight. Lauren, he said, standing. That was quite a moment earlier. You should have warned me. I didn't answer. I wasn't here to explain. He gestured to a folding chair. "Want to sit? We could talk it through." "No," I said, my voice steady. "We're not doing that." He blinked. "Doing what? Reframing the narrative to make you more comfortable." The conversations around us slowed. I didn't care. I opened the envelope and held up the email. His face changed, not fear, but recognition. "You remember this?" I asked. "Pentagon Liaison, Medal of Commendation, the one you had pulled." He looked around, lowered his voice. "Lauren, this isn't the place. It's the exact place. You made sure this room never knew what I did. You controlled the story so tightly, I almost believed it myself." He started to speak. I didn't let him. "You erased me to protect your son's pride. But you didn't protect me. You buried me." Aunt Diane had stepped closer now, Aaron too stiff, unreadable. Dad took a breath. "You don't understand the politics of it." "No," I said. "You don't understand mine. You spent years telling everyone I was just a technician, because if they saw what I'd really done, they might start asking what your son hadn't." The room had gone still, not tense, just listening. I turned slightly, addressing them, all the people who'd smiled, nodded, posed for photos beside his stories. "I'm not asking for a medal," I said, "but I won't be erased." I laid the envelope on the table in front of him. "You can keep it, as a reminder, so that every time someone says, 'Your daughter is impressive,' you'll know what that compliment cost." Then I turned and walked out. No one stopped me, no hands on my shoulder, no calls from behind, just the soft hum of a room unsure what to do with the truth. I didn't cry in the car, didn't shake, didn't even sigh. I sat in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel, staring at the dashboard like it owed me something. Then I started the engine, drove. Not far, just down the street to a coffee shop I used to pass as a kid. Nothing fancy. Chipped mugs, old linoleum, Ella Fitzgerald playing softly in the corner. I ordered black coffee, no cream, no sugar, then sat by the window alone. And for the first time in a long time, the silence around me didn't feel like exile. It felt like relief. No one from the tribute followed, no messages, no missed calls, and still I didn't feel abandoned. I felt clear. For years, I made myself smaller to fit inside their version of who I was. Helpful, technical, convenient, but not brilliant, not dangerous, not someone worth framing. I was the girl who fixed what her brother almost broke and made sure no one ever found out. Until today. Across the table, I opened my phone. One unread message sat in my inbox. Subject: UN Cyber Operations Deputy Role Confirmation Pending. A high-level posting. More diplomacy, more oversight, less glory, but critical. I'd been hesitating, still waiting for someone back home to say, "We're proud of you." But I didn't need it anymore. I clicked accept. The moment I clicked, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Simple text: I was at the tribute. I was the one who asked about your rank. You carried yourself with more dignity than any officer I've met in 30 years of service. The world is better because you stayed quiet then and spoke up now. Signed, Lieutenant General Rhett Maddox. I stared at the screen. Not a compliment, not an apology. Respect. And that was enough. Not because it fixed anything, but because it came from someone who didn't need me to be smaller to feel bigger. I locked my phone, took another sip of coffee, let the warmth settle, and somewhere in that quiet corner I felt it, not victory, not revenge, just alignment. I didn't go back to Dad's house, not for Sunday roast, not for Aaron's half-hearted birthday barbecue, not even when Diane texted, "He wants to talk," face to face, no speeches. I didn't reply. Instead, I packed. My lease in DC was ending. I'd been thinking of renewing staying put, but now that idea felt like wearing an old uniform 2 sizes too small, so I made a call. To Lieutenant Grace Lynn, my mentor since command school. She picked up with a laugh. "Took you long enough, Commander?" I smiled. I accepted the UN posting. "Good. Pack a coat," she said. "Geneva's brutal in March." Then a pause. "Your father?" I didn't answer right away. Eventually, I said, "He'll hear about it. Just not from me." And that was enough. I flew out 3 days later. New badge, new mission, new air. Geneva looked like a city built on glass and silence. Clean streets, stone bridges, conversations in 5 languages. And inside those quiet buildings, I started building something else, not just strategy or systems, but trust. With people who didn't know my last name, didn't ask about my brother, didn't shrink what I did into something technical. They just listened. And over time, they followed. No honor wall, no flags on porches. But I was visible, and I was enough. Some nights, I'd walk by the river coat, zipped high breath, rising like smoke, and I'd think, this is mine. Not borrowed, not allowed, mine. And it's more than I ever thought I was allowed to want. Weeks passed, briefings, strategy sessions, long hours in glass rooms with thick folders. One afternoon, after a cyber threat simulation, a young analyst lingered behind. Nervous, mid-20s, French accent, shaky hands. "Ma'am," he said. "Commander Beck." I looked up. He swallowed. "When I told my mother I worked under you, she said, 'You mean the Commander Beck, the one from Qatar?'" I raised an eyebrow. He grinned. "Ma'am, that story went global, quietly, but it did. You didn't need to speak, your actions did." I didn't respond right away, just exhaled slow and steady. The kind of breath you don't realize you've been holding for years, because sometimes the world sees you even when your family never could. And sometimes that's all the healing you'll ever get, and it's enough. That night, I sat on the balcony of my apartment. The river below moved slow and sure. No flags, no expectations, just water and sky and a place that owed me nothing. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel broken. I felt real. For so long, I chased belonging in uniforms in silence in rooms that never had a seat for me. But now I knew I wasn't meant to fit inside their story because I was writing my own. Quiet, deliberate, undeflected. If this story finds a quiet corner in your heart, I hope you'll stay. And if you're carrying a truth that no one ever made room for, write it. Say it. Don't wait for permission. Your voice matters. It always has. I never went back. Not for holidays, not for birthdays. Not when Diane texted again, "He's not doing well. He's asking for you." Still, I stayed quiet. Because closure isn't always a front porch moment or a hug in the driveway. Sometimes it's distance. Sometimes it's peace that doesn't ask for more pain. I sent no letters, made no calls, but I didn't carry bitterness, just boundaries. The kind you build after too many years of shrinking yourself to keep someone else comfortable. And for once, I didn't feel cruel. I felt clean, like finally setting down something heavy you forgot you were holding and walking away with both hands free. Life moved forward, not loudly, just steadily. Briefings turned into policies, teams grew, respect wasn't asked for anymore, it arrived with the room. I started mentoring younger officers, women mostly, ones who spoke softly but thought fast. They reminded me of who I had been and who I never stopped being. Some days I caught glimpses of my old self, the one standing in the shadows beside a tribute she helped earn. But now she stood at the table, clear, present, undefended. I no longer needed the right photo on a wall or the perfect sentence in someone else's speech. I had my own place, one I built, one no one could shrink, and that quietly was power. One morning during a NATO joint exercise, I walked past a press table. A printed report caught my eye. Cyber Doctrine Evolution Lessons from Operation Resolute Shield. Under contributors, my name was there. Commander Lauren Beck. Not hidden, not footnoted. Printed bold without apology. Later that day, a visiting officer approached me. She was young, nervous. "Ma'am," she said, "I read that report in my academy prep course. They made us study your protocol." I nodded, tried to keep it measured, professional. But something in me shifted. Not pride, not validation, just something rooted. Finally. They hadn't seen me back then, but now they learned from me. That's what mattered. Not the applause, not the frame. The impact, and it carried without permission, without anyone needing to say my name for me to know it mattered. I still don't know if my father ever read the email, or if he kept the envelope, or burned it. It doesn't matter anymore, because the truth doesn't need their approval to exist. I live in a city that never asked me to shrink, work with teams who never needed me to prove I belong. And for the first time, I'm not surviving in someone else's legacy. I'm building my own. So if you've ever been left off the wall, spoken over, called too quiet, or just support, let me say this clearly: you are not invisible. You are not less. You don't need permission to take up space. This is your story too. And if you're ready, tell it in the comments, in your way, because your voice matters. It always has.